everyone, and welcome to the show. Before we dive into today's tale, be sure to click the subscribe button for True Wives stories and give this episode a thumbs up. It will help us continue to bring you these in-depths, and trust me, you'll want to keep going until the end. Cody Brown appears as though he will never tire of attempting to demonstrate he is always correct, even if it means losing the most important relationships in his life, his children. Throughout the years, a majority of his children have become emotionally distanced, and in others, fully estranged. And last year, the last strand, his relationship with Cody Brown, unobtrusively unraveled. Both Cody and Cody remained quiet about the situation for a time. Fans were left to speculate, piecing together hints from small details, until Cody began dropping vague cues during the tell-all episodes. It was then that people realized something had obviously gone awry backstage. We began to receive answers in an October 2024 episode of Sister Wives, when Cody made a questionable remark about Maddie Brown, his oldest daughter, with Janelle. He called her a gossip and used that as an excuse for backing away. And then he said it was unrealistic to have grandparents involved in their grandchildren's lives all the time. His words sounded cold and condescending, and that didn't sit right with Cody. In her defense of her sister, Cody pushed back, publicly. She spoke out about the situation on her Patreon, where she took on her father's refusal to own up. She said, instead of blaming the kids, the rumors, or the parents, all he needed to say was, "I see I did something wrong. I apologize. Can we talk about it?" That alone, she said, would have made all the difference, but the harm was already done. Cody described that she had gone to Cody directly before, raising certain concerns and attempting to correct them. His reaction? Diversion. He acknowledged her demands, but then deflected blame elsewhere. In her account, it wasn't simply frustrating, there was hurt involved. Later, in episode 3 of the same season, Cody once again made a discreet allusion to his shattered relationship with Cody. And what made it even more puzzling for fans was that Cody and Robin, Cody's fourth wife, always had a good relationship. They even welcomed her to be there during the birth of their twins, a reflection of how close they used to be. But now that is not the case anymore. Cody might have given away the turning point without intending to. When talking about displays of affection, he mentioned that he and Robin had been asked to leave one family gathering because they were being too demonstrative with their PDA. Perhaps that was the beginning of the schism. Since that time, significant family milestones, such as Garrison Brown's memorial and Gwen Brown's engagement party, have occurred with little family cohesion. And then there's Mary Brown. She's been tangled in her own share of tension. Some claim she didn't support a recent marriage, leading to an argument at the funeral. When Cody was asked about it, he shut the question down cold, saying, "I'm not going there." And just like that, another wall went up. So where are the Brown family members now? Estranged children, skipped events, unresolved tension. It all appears to be mounting. The question isn't so much whether they'll reconcile, it's whether Cody will ever really acknowledge where he went astray. Thanks for watching and stay subscribed. There's always more to reveal in the world of Sister Wives. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Cody Brown did open up slightly in a recent episode, and although he wasn't forthcoming, what was left unspoken said everything. And boy, it cost me dearly, he explained to his audience with a stern pause. It's a story that just cannot be told. The host, decidedly interested, pried him. Is it really that traumatizing? Something so damaging that you just won't talk about it? Cody didn't blink. He just looked at Suki and said, "Let's just not discuss it." And then there was a comment that put more fire into the flames. "I won't show love to Robin in front of Mary and Janelle until they marry again." It was uncomfortable, it was confessional, and it illustrated clearly where things are at within the splintered Brown family. But here's the true question: can Cody mend his relationships with his kids? From the outside looking in, we'd like to imagine there's always hope that families can heal. But Cody forgets one important fact. He's the parent. Regardless of how old your kids become, you're still the grown-up in the equation. And when the grown-up won't lead with humility or responsibility, relationships do eventually disintegrate. Cody's unyielding desire to be correct is frustrating, but it's also hurtful. He's been shown more concern about Robin's comfort than about the feelings of his other children, for instance. Easy to picture him comforting Robin and totally dismissing the sorrow of Garrison's siblings. A blindness like that would hurt anyone, and could easily account for why Mykelti may have decided it was best to just not communicate anymore. With Cody's nature, it would not be a shock to see him oversteam Robin at an inopportune moment, only to bristle when someone like Mykelti talked back and asked for a little tact. And when Cody is challenged, even lightly, he retreats. His relationship with almost every family member, other than Robin and the children, has been strained, if not completely severed. More disturbing, however, is the indifference to repairing it. As a father of 18, Cody does not appear to be desperate to piece things back together. For years, fans have been waiting to listen to him take responsibility for the wreckage, but all they have endured is couch confessionals, veiled shots, and a string of excuses. Then this week it finally came to pass. Robin Brown finally spoke out loud what everyone had long suspected. She is indeed the preferred wife. The instant she admitted it, fans everywhere took a collective breath, and some likely uttered, "We knew it." Miri, Janelle, and Christine, they didn't even bother with a pretense of pretending. It was a 10-year-old confirmation in the making. For 10 seasons, we've watched Robin slowly move to the center of Cody's world. She was always first in line, first to be heard, first to be comforted, and first to receive his full attention. And now, the last wife to join the family has admitted what viewers and the other wives have sensed all along. There's a peculiar sort of closure in that admission. It should be painful, but somehow curiously validating for Janelle, Miri, and Christine. They were forced to feel for all those years like they were seeing things that weren't there. They faced deflections, emotional manipulation, and straight-up gaslighting, as Cody kept assuring them that everything was just a communication issue. But the reality was clear right from the start. In the first episode of Sister Wives in 2010, we were shown warning signs. Cody and Robin were filmed stealing kisses before they were even married. And when one of the biggest moments of his life happened in his family, Truly Brown's birth, Cody was hours away on a date with Robin. It's a trend that's difficult to miss, and it's one Cody has consistently attempted to deny, downplay, or redirect blame from. But now that Robin has confessed to something that most already knew, there is no more hiding. She wasn't just constructing a life with him, she was constructing the life with him, and everyone else sat on the sidelines and watched. Though Cody professed himself to be a faithful polygamist, what he did spoke otherwise, of his subtle transition into monogamy with Robin, while his affairs with Miri, Janelle, and Christine gradually fell apart. Whenever one of the wives would go so far as to mention the unevenness, Cody would turn it around, labeling them as bitter or jealous. It was emotional manipulation at its best, and unfortunately it worked long enough. The other wives remained, wondering themselves, thinking perhaps they were overreacting. Seeing them struggle to win his approval as Robin easily got every bit of Cody's attention was probably one of the saddest interactions on the show, and just when you could not see things being any more intense, Janelle finally snapped. During an intense argument, she lashed out and yelled, "You are gaslighting me!" It was real, it was raw, and it was long in coming. Through it all, Robin was largely quiet, standing by the wife role, playing the peacemaker, being the calm, neutral one, and her quiet was heard. It was deafening. She may not have wanted to be the favorite, but she sure wasn't doing anything to prevent it, and in that silence, the pecking order only grew stronger. Next was the Sister Wives Tell-All, in which, of all things, a luggage rack was the emblem of all that was bad in the Brown family. Christine and Janelle both described how, when traveling with the family, Cody always reserved the luggage rack for himself or Robin. Their bags just ended up on the floor. It was a little thing, but one that whispered quietly, "You don't matter so much." When asked if she normally got the rack, Robin replied nonchalantly, "Yes," and then waved the issue aside with a shrug, saying, "This is stupid. Did you not know it was a pet peeve of theirs?" The host probed further, and Robin said, "I didn't know. Perhaps I just put my bags there first. It's not a big deal." But to viewers, and to the other wives, it was a very big deal. It was another reminder that Robin was being treated differently. Her tired tone, her deflection, was like a whispered confession from someone carrying a truth for too long. And when that truth slipped out, it caused a wave of emotion around the fandom. Her down-to-earth confession shattered the fantasy Cody had preserved for more than a decade of treating all his wives similarly. It confirmed what Mary, Janelle, and Christine had sensed all along. It verified what viewers had long suspected, but were never able to confirm. Cody wasn't merely playing favorites, he was living them. The emotional damage went way deeper than that one incident. It wasn't about a luggage rack or forgotten birthdays or subtle favoritism. This was about years of dishonesty. Cody had made his family and his audience think that the dysfunction came from the difficulty of plural marriage. But really, it was something much more fundamental and much more heartbreaking. The actual problem wasn't the logistics, it wasn't communication, it wasn't even the lifestyle, it was that one woman got to come first, and the rest had to be fine with it. At the center of this decades-long broken family was a man burdened by ego, refusing to change, refusing to apologize, and refusing to see that he had built a system where love was conditional and uneven. Cody Brown's demise wasn't polygamy, it was pride. Cody Brown's compulsion to be right all the time, his tendency to put his own point of view above everyone else's, has cost him much more than he probably knows. The cost isn't financial, it's not tangible, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And in a very real sense, that makes it the most crushing kind. What started out as an experiment in harmony, a large plural family grounded in faith and affection, has steadily eroded into strained estrangement. The raucous laughter and group cohesion that once characterized the Browns has given way to hushed tones. And now comes word that Cody might have lost one of the last possible points of connection he had, with a child who stood with him when the world was against him. The in-question daughter, such a sweet, empathetic person, and such a giver of the benefit of the doubt to her father, again and again, appears to have finally had enough. Though Cody hasn't directly acknowledged the estrangement, he has casually leaked hints on his recent interviews and shows. He discusses on and off in generalities, wrapping sorrow up in defensiveness, giving half-truths instead of honesty. But long-time fans are perceptive. They saw through the fog of carefully chosen words and sensed the shift. This daughter, once fiercely loyal, appears to have drawn a boundary. And that line was crossed not with one explosive moment, but with years of small, careless actions, offhand comments, misdirected blame, and a stubborn refusal to say two simple words, "I'm sorry." One episode in particular drew outrage from fans. Cody was observed to be making condescending, even scoffing remarks about one of his adult daughters. He doubted was the taunt unwarranted. He saw was drenched in releases a few more Adwaid for you two. As her comes the a father and what's full porgia. And conditions in such a family, his daughter did not react in fury. She didn't tweet rants or consent to a tearful interview. Instead, she spoke to her followers with calmness, with integrity, and with sorrow. She said that it wasn't the words he used, it was the repeated failure to own up that stung most. Time and again, her dad blamed others. The children, the ex-wives, the situation, anything but himself. She explained that she had confronted him personally about the way his behavior affected her. But each time Cody would defend, deflect, or deny. She had borne the emotional weight for years of being the bigger person, the peacemaker, the one who left the door open. But that weight had become too heavy to bear alone. In a gentle, emotional video on her own channel where she reveals more to her followers than she ever has in public, She talked about what she and her brothers really needed. Not platitudes, not public relations spin. They needed an authentic apology, a contrite one, a father who would say, "I hurt you, I was wrong, let's talk." Instead, they were confronted with more of the same. False explanations dressed up as justifications, righteousness dressed up as walls of silence, and silence where healing should have been. No drama was necessary. There didn't need to be. This wasn't about revenge. It was about a daughter finally opting for peace rather than pain. And her quiet strength, in the end, spoke louder than any of Cody's TV soapbox defenses ever did. This daughter was among the few who had a real relationship with her father's current partner for many years, a relationship that made the final break all the more bitter. While others within the family distanced themselves, she gave grace and kindness. She decided to involve this partner in the turning point events of her life, such as the birth of her children, as an act of love, acceptance, and oneness. But somewhere along the way, that wide openness was either misconstrued as blind devotion or simply taken for granted. Boundaries that had been carefully established were later disregarded. And in one especially revealing moment, during a candid portion of the family's televised odyssey, the father spoke of being asked to leave a family function with his partner. Why? Public displays of affection during a moment of somber recall. This had nothing to do with bitterness. It had to do with timing, with sensitivity, and with respect. It was the day the family came together to mourn the loss of someone who had died with an open wound. But in that sanctified place of grief, the limits that bereaved family members established were breached. Something intended to unite the family ended up driving them further apart. Ever since Jennifer and Belinda returned home, there have been only faint glimpses, tense, small reunions where a smile seems artificial and a hug carries with it uncertainty. A daughter's engagement, a son's war memorial. These occasions should have been strengthening, but they've exposed the extent of the fissures instead. There's an unease in the air now, the kind that isn't born of peace but of evasion. There have been additional rumors since. One of the father's previous girlfriends suggested that a confrontation at one of these parties left him emotionally traumatized. While she didn't tell all, her demeanor did. And when asked to elaborate, the father balked. He just said it's a story that can't be told, implying the emotional price was too steep, the truth too painful. In a single sentence of defense, he made a strange promise that he would not show affection for his wife in public around his exes until they were remarried. It was an enigmatic dodging, one that served to hide a stronger refusal to support responsibility. Behind the words was a man who continued to make excuses for actions that never ceased over the course of time to alienate almost every person near to him. So where are we? Is reconciliation possible at all? Hope, in its obstinate way, never fully dies. Even during the darkest pages of frayed relationships, it smoulders in the background, speaking softly that forgiveness can be achieved, that healing can emerge from suffering. Families have recovered from worse, but healing doesn't happen without effort, without introspection, without humility. And this is where the true question is. Because the father at the center of this devastation refuses to do his part. He talks a lot about how he was wronged, about how things were misconstrued, but very seldom, if ever, does he take any blame for the failure, until he has the guts to take blame and open up his heart. The healing path will stay shut. The story of this once vibrant family isn't just one of separation. It's a cautionary tale of pride, silence, and missed chances. And as viewers, we're left with a single aching question. How many more connections must be lost before something finally changes? He talks about introspection very little, but betrayal? That he talks about frequently. In order for healing to really start, he would have to hear rather than defend, to be in the pain of regret instead of for the solace of accusation. And that's what makes all of this so tragic. The hurt isn't permanent, bridges can still be repaired, but the groundwork must be made of something stronger than pride. It must be laid on responsibility, humility, and an actual desire to mend. Without that, the divide between a father and his children will only widen. At present, his relationships with almost all of his grown children are strained, remote, or simply broken. The man who used to sit midst laughter now sits in a much quieter home, with less voices, fewer hearts, and those hearts left behind, the ones that would race into his arms as little children, now standing back, waiting, hoping, perhaps even grieving the father they once thought he might be. Whether that family will ever reunite in any real sense is anybody's guess. For the moment, the silence speaks volumes. That daughter, who once bore so much promise, now bears the weight of disillusionment. The echoes within that once happy home are not merely of laughter lost, but of possibilities forfeited. And perhaps the saddest tragedy of all, it didn't have to be this way. Following years of stilted silences, terse comments, and the ubiquitous symbolic changes of Cody Brown's constantly shifting hairstyles, the time viewers have been waiting for arrived. Robin, Sister Wives' most polarizing figure, finally spoke truth. She is the favorite. What might have been a quiet truth instead shattered years of denial. In a few words, she vindicated the lived reality of three women who had, for far too long, been described as paranoid, dramatic, or envious. But this is not a story of favoritism. It's about what occurs when equality is promised but never exerted. It's about what gets broken when one man is the focal point in four women's lives, while one woman is the focal point in his. Robin came into the family with a softness, a certain submissiveness that at first appeared to be harmony, but beneath that facade was another type of power, subtle but unmistakable. She never had to battle for his attention like the other wives did. It was simply hers. The others, Mary, Janelle, Christine, they carried children, burdens, and weights that were often invisible. They suffered, they waited, they made sacrifices. And when they finally had the courage to speak their pain, they were not met with empathy, but with blame, with accusations of jealousy, with gaslighting. The imbalance didn't begin with Robin, but it definitely took hold around her. And now, with one humble admission, the myth of equality has toppled. What's left is not only the breakdown of a plural marriage, it's the emotional residue of a family based on broken promises. It's the tale of women finding their voice, of children establishing boundaries, and of a man still not looking into the mirror long enough to notice the destruction. Reconciliation is not impossible, but it's no longer solely up to them. The next move, if there is one, is in the hands of the father, who still believes being right is more important than being there. Until then, the Brown family's tale stays just where we left it, on the brink of something that might have been whole, but now perhaps never will be. Tests were read as guilt, and some viewed them as performative. In either case, what was made apparent was that her stance had long since ceased being one of neutrality. Whether by silence, passive assent, or failure to intervene, Robin was complicit in a system that was repeatedly excluding the other wives. Christine, who was once full of laughter and energy, had her spirit slowly extinguished by the constant injustice. She finally chose herself and left. Janelle, down to earth and stalwart, endured longer, but even her strength came to an end. Mary, who was the first to marry Cody, spent years on the periphery. Their lives together created a painful reality. The dream of mutual love and equality had unraveled into a pecking order, one in which Robin, by design or default, was at the top. What makes this coming undone so compelling is not so much the dissolution of spiritual marriages, it's the manner in which the wives, once quieted by duty, culture, or hope, started taking back their voices. The public may have regarded the luggage rack moment as petty, but to the women within that narrative, it was a representation of all the unspoken jabs, all the concerns belittled, all the times they were assured their hurt wasn't real. Cody, once he had presented himself as an equanimous patriarch juggling the compromises of plural marriage, dropped the charade. The favoritism he had so long denied was undeniable. It wasn't so much the way he treated Robin, it was the way he did not show up emotionally for the rest. His commitment was seen, and it wasn't shared. As this reality dawned, the sisterhood broke apart, not because the women did not love and care for each other, but because the framework was never established to guard them from the discord that Cody permitted and Robin came to accept. Ultimately, this is not a tale of jealousy, it's one of justice, of women waking up from an extended emotional gaslight, of noticing when fairness has departed and having the strength of character to escort it out the door. The luggage rack was a small item, but its load bore the weight of a decade.